Good morning, fellow truth seekers. Welcome back. Today is the 1 year anniversary of my written blog and my research, essentially. I started before that, but I didn't start writing anything until exactly a year ago today. Interestingly enough, a year ago today, October 24th, 2013, the numerology for that day was 47. When I started the blog, which you can go to, I'll link in the comments, if you look at my first post, I don't talk about gematria or numerology at all. I do talk about the ongoing significance of 33 in world events, however. And the other thing I talk a lot about is fiction, where events are written about before they transpire. And in my research, that goes back to Futility, Wreck of the Titan, written about the largest ship ever built, named the Titan, that crashes on an iceberg in April while traveling between the UK and United States. That occurred exactly 14 years, or that book was released 14 years before the sinking of the Titanic. There's more books like this throughout in history. Another really good example, though, more recently is called The Final Jihad. It was written by the brother of the governor of Oklahoma, who was governor during the time of the Timothy McVeigh Oklahoma City building bombing. If you read this book, The Final Jihad, it's about a character named Tom McVeigh, very similar to Tim McVeigh, who does blow up the Oklahoma City building. Also in that book, events happen that are similar to the TWA airplane crash out of New York City, and also planes flying to the World Trade Center buildings at the end of the book. And this book was written before any of these events took place by the brother of the governor where the actual bombing happened. In recent weeks, it's made the headlines that this book called Absolute Zero, published in 1997, that's 17 years earlier, it should be noted that the word Ebola sums to 17 in gematria, is about a patient zero in Dallas, Texas, that brings Ebola to the nation. And I think that's just one of many more examples of where I started with this research. So anyhow, since I've started it, I've also learned about this gematria and numerology and how important it is in the ongoing conspiracy. It ties right in with this fiction being released well in advance. So yesterday's numerology is also 47, 10, 23, 14. This is exactly 365 days after I started the blog. And if you read my first post, you guys can all go back and look at it. What I talked about is there's this building narrative for a major epidemic in the Northeast, from the Northeast all the way down to the Carolinas and Georgia. And what I theorize, and what I've thought for quite a while, honestly, is that eventually there will be a horrible epidemic on the East Coast because that's where the majority of the nation's population is. If you look at population density in this country, the East Coast is packed, as we all know. The middle of the country, sparse. And a lot of the West Coast is just wide open outside of the cities. So it seems like naturally they're going to need people to move further west because there's just so much space. And in that initial blog post, I theorized that someday they're going to bring something really awful to the East Coast, and I think it's sooner than later because of the Georgia Guidestones. I talked a lot about the Georgia Guidestones in that first post. Just recently, in September, they were updated, and it's all fitting the pattern of what I've been writing about. And what I've been writing about with the Georgia Guidestones is that they are located on the 34th parallel north. They're currently in their 34th year anniversary. 34 is the 9th Fibonacci number. Fibonacci numbers are the numbers of life. And the first rule on the Georgia Guidestones is maintain the Earth's population at 500 million. Well, if these are more than a hoax and these rules that were written in these stones are sincere, then that means 13 out of 14 people living, if the world's population truly is 7 billion, would have to die to get to 500 million. 13 out of 14 people. And in my research, I've shown that this has been done before. It's been done before in this very own country. Variola, also known as smallpox, destroyed the Indian population that was once here. In gematria, the words variola and Indian both sum to 33, a very significant number, and it's through and through in this Ebola story. Yesterday, with the numerology of 47, we heard that this doctor right here Craig Spencer, 33 years old, has tested positive for Ebola. He got it while working with Doctors Without Borders in Western Africa, supposedly. But let's go back in time. Okay, so this Ebola story, it got big in the United States July 22nd, 722, another very important number. 22 divided by 7 creates the number that is pi. Pi has to do with circles. Think about circles and cycles. This Ebola story is following AIDS by 33 years. The AIDS story was 1981. 33 years later is 2014. AIDS is 1 plus 9 plus 4 plus 19 in gematria. AIDS sums to 33. The doctor who discovered AIDS was 33 years old. His name was Michael. In gematria, Michael also sums to 33. There's more of this, but now let's fast forward to the earlier this year, 33 years after the AIDS awareness. In Conakry, Guinea, Conakry has a gematria of Guinea. A 33-year-old doctor contracted Ebola. It is said that he was brought back to Atlanta. Atlanta's on the 33rd parallel north. ATL, the common abbreviation, is 1 plus 20 plus 12 sums to 33. And that July 22nd is when this all went down. It is said that he was treated with the experimental Ebola drug Z-MAP. It's spelled that way, capital ZM, lowercase APP. Z plus M is 26 plus 13, that sums to 39. The acronym for HIV also sums to 39. In this study of numerology and gematria, 33 and 39 are often paired together, especially in New York. I'll get into that at the end. So, he got this drug, ZM39, and then APP is 1 plus 16 plus 16. So this drug is almost like a 39-33 coded into it. Since that, an NBC cameraman has contracted Ebola. He was also 33 years old. Just 2 days earlier, they said he's Ebola-free. The drug worked on him also. The gematria of the word cameraman also happens to be 33. It should be noted that the number 33 ties in with 311 and 113. The words mainstream and the word green screen both sum to 113. 11 times 3 is 33. I don't think any of this stuff's an accident. And then yesterday, again, 33-year-old doctor is said to have had Ebola. This morning, the details. When they give us these details, you guys have to think about why they're really giving us this information. They said he went on a 3-mile run through New York City while he was contagious. They said he went bowling. Essentially, just imagine running through New York City, going out to the bowling alley. Think of all the people that could have potentially contracted Ebola, right? Just based on these details. And then if you read about Ebola, it says it takes up to 3 weeks before it shows symptoms. So you know what they're doing? They're just building the narrative for the massive viral outbreak. I expect at some point, one day, the news is just going to come on and say, oh, today we found out there's this story here, there's this case here, there's this case there, there's this case here. Could this be the outbreak? And I think eventually they are going to hit us with an outbreak. I don't know if it's going to happen in the next month or in the next few years, but I'd be surprised if it was any longer than 2017. Remember, the word Ebola sums to 17. I speculate that by the year 17, this Ebola will be a lot bigger. So anyway, there it was, all the 33, from AIDS to Ebola to so much more. It's not just those two things, you guys. You know the pink ribbons for the breast cancer? Go to Wikipedia and look up the charity and see what age the woman was who contracted breast cancer to start the charity. She was 33 years old. Her name was Susan Goodman. The name Susan in gematria sums to 74, the reverse of 47. The name Goodman sums to 33. What else? Also, it should be noted that Ron Klain, our new Ebola czar, his first and last name both sum to 47, Ron and Klain. And his birthday is August 8th, 1961. The 8/8's curious, but if you sum it up, 8 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 1, it sums to 33. And then the other way to get the numerology of a date is where you'd write it out 8/8/61. 8 plus 8 plus 61 sums to 77. So he has some very special life numbers. And that's the crux of this update, you guys. Please go back and read and watch my older blog posts too. It's all really important. If this is new information to you, you got a lot to learn. If you learn about this, I promise you your understanding of the world is going to be a lot greater.